and welcome back to another Sunday Sessions video. If you're new to this and you don't know what it is, pretty much where myself and Luke run through the markets and show you our bias and analysis for the coming week. So I thought it was going to be funny just to start off here on Bitcoin US dollar because of the fact that I see something quite relevant, a clear sell to buy candle representing a demand zone on this weekly or monthly time frame, where we see the price has just tapped it in. And we've been holding within this region for a very long time now, potentially months, where we see we're potentially building up the liquidity at this region, either to go lower, longer term, or what could potentially be happening here is that it's an accumulation. We're creating the swing low in the higher time frames and preparing for the next bull run to trade as higher, potentially meaning if we do get the reversal there, that we will then be looking to target the highs in this market, seeing the start of this market as impulse, correction, a big impulse here, correction, impulse, but this overall move could then also be seen as a single move higher. This is a single correctional wave, building up for that next push, which we can expect will obviously be longer term structure, years to come, trading as higher to eventually surpass this. So maybe if you do this top down or technical analysis on this market, it may change your outlook for how you would look to invest in this crypto. But anyway, let us just get back to Forex pairs. So we see that inside of this, we're currently looking at potentially the correctional wave here in the market, where we're saying that we can see prices traded up. I was hoping it was going to come and target this daily supply zone, where we'd see a distribution reversal. Obviously, we've had a swing point created, nothing crazy in terms of a prolonged distribution, which would indicate institutional control, but we have seen bearishness off the back of that, where we've traded down, created this swing low, and we see that recently on Friday with the NFP news that came out, which has caused a bit of a madness in the markets, and you will see a trend as we go on. We broke 15-minute structure, started heading higher, and therefore starting to invalidate some of that bearishness we have seen. And what we can expect now is that price is either seeing this as an impulse and delivering the correctional wave, in which case we'd hope to see price now reverse from this last supply zone in that move. If not, and we actually see the break through this, we could then resume that to the longer term bias that price is coming to mitigate and give us a full reversal and institutionalized reversal inside of this 1 day supply zone before then reversing, and we'd be looking for price to then head towards that target. Shorter term though, obviously we can try to take advantage of the coming bullishness, and in which case we would identify this as a demand zone, so a clear sell to buy region, and we can see that if price trades down, we see the reaction from that, we can get involved in buys and look to trade price up at least to this supply zone where we expect a decent mitigation from. If not, we can potentially even look to hold that position longer term to this 1 day supply zone, where again we would like to see a proper institutionalized reversal before any real move lower longer term. And what I was saying here is where we're seeing these trends is because a lot of these markets where we see the dollar as the quote is going to be pretty similar after the effects of the NFP. Here on Australian dollar, US dollar, we're still working within 2 hour structure. We just reversed from a POI, started making some nice moves lower, but this recent bullishness has come to potentially jeopardize that subsequent trend that we saw after the reversal, so the creation of this bearishness, which we thought was going to sustain a large move lower. We see now that we were potentially incorrect about that, as we see the bullishness emerging from this. And we see now a very similar thing. If we assume that this bullishness is remaining, we could then potentially look to get involved from demand zones, like the one here, or if we see it break through, we may just see the market stabilize, reverse, and go back to bearish. So at the moment, because of the effects we've had with the NFP, it has sort of disregarded a lot of short-term technical analysis. So we need some more price action, like at the start of this week, to give us more information on what we think is likely to happen in this trading week in the short term. So now XAU USD or gold, we see that obviously, again, we've got a longer term impulse here. Correction into a supply zone, the start of the new impulse, which we thought would come to target and break the current target down here. However, we see that that has not happened. We were trading bearish towards it. We see we had that initial push down. We didn't quite clear that liquidity low or the current target. Reversed back up, hit a zone, had the reversal again. Coming lower, I thought price was going to respect this bearishness until we had the break. We started seeing reversal signs from this region that was sent out into the chart. Fortunately, the NFP then came out, we blew through that zone, so we do have the introduction of some bullishness. That has come to clear this nice region of liquidity, and therefore we can assume it is likely to target one of these two zones, whether that be the zone left over from the reversal of this major zone, or if we trade all the way back up towards this protected high, hitting a 4-hour zone. Either way, it's pretty much just shorter term bullishness to traders into longer term bearishness. Okay, now actually going to a market where US dollar is the base rather than the quote. We see rather than a big bullish spike, we see the opposite, a nice bearish spike, which actually goes along with our analysis in this market in terms of this 2-hour reversal, the move lower, correctional wave back up, reversal, and now start of potentially a new impulsive wave. Now, typically, all we can really expect to see here is a pullback into a zone, the reversal continuation lower, where we are looking to target the low of this 2-hour zone with the purpose of coming down lower in this 8-hour structure, because we have had a massive bull run over the past year plus, which we can expect there is many unmitigated orders left that we could do the correction wave to come back down to, mitigate those out, therefore sustaining the move much longer term. Zooming in on price now, in order for us to continue bearishness to reach those lows, we're pretty much just going to see price trade back up into a zone here, potentially at 147.6, or there's a zone all the way up here that's yet to be mitigated around 148.53. Okay, so that is actually going to conclude my section this week. Not too long because of the fact that, as I said, we're just waiting for the markets to stabilize after what happened on Friday. So a lot of it for me is just going to be waiting until more structure is delivered start of the week, where we'll then update the analysis in the Learning Lounge and the VIP chat. So if you're not involved with those, make sure you are, so you can get a better, more in-depth rundown on what we will be expecting to see. But for now, that is me, and I will pass you over to Luke.
How are you getting on, guys? I hope you're okay. I hope you've enjoyed James's analysis. Now I'm going to run over some of the pairs that I am looking at trading this coming week. Me and James look at very similar pairs. Obviously, he's given you his bias on XAU USD. I'm going to do the same. You'll be happy to know that our bias is pretty much identical. And we have actually traded XAU USD very well as of recent. I've placed a multitude of positions over the course of the last few weeks, and we have predicted every single move that has happened to great precision. As you can see, we placed a buy position going into this zone. We placed a few sells going down into this zone. We placed another buy position coming into this one, and then we placed multiple positions, multiple sell positions, riding price lower. Our take profit was set pretty much perfect, and now what we have seen is price actually come up, surpass the previous structural lower high, as well as this one here. So with that being said, we then look at the rest of this impulsive wave for areas that have been left unmitigated and that hold validity for price to travel to in order to reverse. Flip that supply and demand balance. Now, this is the target that I've got, which is very similar to James's. I think it is pretty much the same. So this is the area that I've got that I believe price may travel to in order to grab enough liquidity and enough supply in the market to then reverse it, creating its next impulsive wave lower. And if not, then as James has said, I think it would be a case of then going up to the higher timeframes, now looking at the extreme timeframes and looking within this impulsive wave that took us lower. But first and foremost, I think it's important that we look more fractally at the most recent impulsive wave and we try and find any areas that could potentially reverse the market there. So between 1708 and 1715 is the area that I am looking for sell opportunities. What we would need is for price to trail into this zone with good volume, breaking structure to the downside and producing us with bearish structure. Once we have been delivered with that, we can then look to actually execute those sell positions and ride price down. My take profit would probably be set just above this line again, just to be safe. And as you can imagine, a position like this in itself would offer us with some brilliant returns. As you can see, if we have our take profit just set above the structural high that would be created or the zone itself, and a take profit just above this, structural low, this previous higher time frame structural low, we still walk away with a risk to reward return of a 1 to 9. So very exciting times. Just going to have to be patient, sit on our hands and wait for price to play out. And then once we are delivered with the right confluence in order to execute, we will do. Okay, so now moving over to AUD USD, another market that both me and James trade. I'm one that kind of trades this a little bit more, but as we can see, price has trailed into a point of interest of mine. What we are wanting to see now is price basically break structure to the downside, give us the confirmation that there is enough supply in the market and price is ready to create new lows. If that has been confirmed and we have that confluence, we can then look to execute those positions. If not, then we would look at this as a second point of interest for potential reversals. As we can see, we have had a last buy to sell candle here. So this in itself could hold some validity when it comes to getting the reversal power and being able to push the market lower. So if you haven't done, highlight this zone for yourself. You'll see the increments on the right hand side. Get that highlighted for yourself and wait for the confirmation. Alternatively, we can wait and see if we get the break of structure we desire and want through this zone. So again, highlight these increments. We want to see price break structure to the downside around this area, and it would literally just be a case of going down to the fractal structure, looking at the 5 minute, and we would want to see maybe this structural low get broken as this went on to set a structural high. Why is this a structural low? This is a structural low because this went on to set a new structural high that was higher than the previous one. So this is a valid structural low. So we want to see this get broken. So when I say broken, we want to see price fall and fall below this previous low. This would suggest potential bearishness as it is now broken structure. It's creating lower lows and lower highs, which is bearish structure. We would then look for a pullback into a valid supply zone. Once we have that penetration, that pullback, we can then look to execute positions, riding that down to our take profit target. So again, mark out this zone for yourself, mark out this structural low for yourself, 0.6424. Wait for price to fall below that. Wait for the pullback, giving us the opportunity to get a refined entry, and then we can look at executing those sell positions. Alternatively, we will be waiting for price to trail into our higher point of interest, where we will then be looking for the same kind of confluence. Okay, now moving over to Euro USD. Again, this is probably James's favorite pair. For me, it is a pair that I like to trade. We trade it very often. And the good thing is, the brilliant thing is, me and James have very similar ways of trading and have very similar biases on most markets. So to have two professionals, I'd call us professionals, have the same bias is a good sign. It means that we are seeing the same things. There is more of a potential that our analysis is going to play out. Now, what do I want to see with this market? Well, evidently this market is predominantly bearish. Yes, we are within a corrective phase, but the market overall is bearish. Now, we are looking at this on a 1 hour time frame, and we can see that price is creating higher highs and higher lows, both fractally and on higher time frames. And I think this is so price can tap into this higher time frame point of interest, deliver us with a distribution, a break of structure to the downside, and then it will go on to set its new higher time frame impulsive wave lower. If I just go to the higher time frames, looking at the 4 hour, we can see how this market is very much bearish, and we are seeing lower highs and lower lows get created consistently. Obviously, this phase here is a corrective phase, just as this was, and just as this was. So what we are seeing now is higher highs and higher lows being put in. Absolutely, this is a bullish corrective wave, but as soon as price is trailed into this zone, best believe price will then go on to set its new bearish leg. Now, this is obviously the true importance of being able to look at markets both fractally and on the higher time frames. But you'll see here, yes, it's setting bearish structure. Perfect. And we want to see price trail in, but then we will have the confirmation of bearishness, and then we can expect price to then go on to create its next higher time frame impulsive wave. But if we were to look at this in a higher time frame scheme of things, you can see how actually price is very much, so we'd go from here, is very much bearish. Even if price was to do exactly as we predict, that is still following bearish structure. If I just change the color of this just to make it a bit more visible, you can see that that is clear bearish structure. As ugly as it may look, that's bearish structure. So we just want to see price continue to play out in this bullish manner into our higher time frame point of interest. Again, mark this zone out for yourself. It is between 1.0120 and 1.0188. So it's quite a large zone, but we want to see a distribution take place, and we want to see the confluence and confirmation that price is in fact ready to take that next impulsive wave lower. Okay, so finally moving over to Euro AUD. This is the last pair that I am looking to trade this coming week. Unfortunately, we actually missed the opportunity to sell into this market the start of last weekend. I did predict a break of structure to the downside, a pullback, and then to get involved in sell positions. Price did exactly that. Maybe not in the exact same place, but it did exactly that. We can see a break of structure to the downside here, the pullback, and then price has been bearish ever since. We did then have a last buy to sell region here that we could look for potential pullbacks. As we can see, price has tapped into that, delivered us with bearishness. So that's played out as well perfectly. So we can see that price is reliant and is respecting supply zones. So what we need to do is we need to look for another valid supply zone. Well, I have managed to find one here, another last buy to sell candle. What I'm wanting to do and what I'm wanting to see is for price to trail into this supply zone. Once price has trailed into this supply zone, we can then look to place those sell positions and ride the market lower. If we just zoom out a little bit, now looking at the 1 hour time frame, we can see that our higher time frame target price would be down here. So the opportunity to sell into this market and actually profit well from this is very good. We can get a refined entry from this zone and we can trail our price and we can hold our position all the way down until this higher time frame swing low. Obviously, we want to say I'll take profit just above this in order for it to be achieved without any risk of price reversing. So if we just draft out a position here, we have our stop loss just set above the structural high that's created. So let's say it was 30 pips, although I know for a fact we can get a more refined one. Our take profit set just above the structural low created. We are looking at a 1 to 35 position here. So by enabling ourselves to get refined entries, it can offer us with brilliant risk to reward ratios. Now we've had higher time frame confluence as we've had multiple breaks of structure on the higher time frames. All we need to do now is wait for that pullback and look to get involved in a sell position. So if you want to mark out this supply zone for yourselves, by all means do so. The increments are on the right hand side here. Wait for price to trail in, deliver us with the confirmation of bearishness, and then get yourself involved. So that is going to conclude the Sunday sessions video for this weekend. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have done, leave a thumbs up on the video. All the support you guys provide is very much appreciated. If you have any questions, any queries regarding our analysis and our bias for any markets that you've looked at today, by all means leave them in the comments below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you aren't involved in the Learn and Launch group chat, get yourself involved. And if you are looking to learn how to trade as me and James do, we do have courses on the website, so go and check those out. This has been a Sunday Sessions video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.